Cancelled Disney projects. Over the years, Disney has had super ambitious projects, but none of them come true. For instance, Western River Expedition might be one of the most famous cancelled Disney attractions. This would have been a massive complex at Frontierland in the Magic Kingdom. It would have been the Pirates of the Caribbean of the East Coast. Since Imagineers thought Florida was too close to the actual Caribbean and had real experience with piracy, so a Western adventure would have been a more exotic location to locals. Mark Davis did much of the work on this attraction. I have a book that showcases some of the scenes from the main attraction, with a ride system similar to Pirates. Unlike a skull, for instance, we would have this owl that was actually previewed at the Walt Disney Story that is now the Meet Mickey space. I have been personally working on a project called Western River Reborn, which is focused on updating this concept with current technology. Since this is such a fascinating story, this would have been a huge project with more than one ride. However, once the Magic Kingdom opened, it became clear guests wanted a Pirates of the Caribbean. Disney World would open Pirates later in 1973, but Mark Davis did not give up at that point. Unfortunately, the size of this project and the gas crisis did not help. Some plans were made to scale back the project and even include Big Thunder as part of it, but it wasn't meant to be. Western River Expedition was never built. Today we have Big Thunder Mountain and Splash Mountain for now. One thing that is quite curious is that some figures actually went into production. Another Mark Davis project was the Enchanted Snow Palace, inspired by the Snow Queen. Something you might find familiar since it takes the same inspiration as Frozen. In the late 1970s, Imagineer Mark Davis envisioned the Enchanted Snow Palace, an attraction that would have transported guests into the icy realms of the Snow Queen, with a musical score by the legend composer Buddy Baker. Other than the Snow Queen, this ride would have showcased some interesting characters like 3 snowballs, some penguins, even this one that looks like Pablo, and this cute seal. However, Disney was focused on other projects like Space Mountain, so this one,
it never happened.
Another project that always intrigued me was Fort Wilderness Junction. Ever since the opening of Fort Wilderness Campground, plans were made to expand it, with the opening of River Country and the Pioneer Hall. If you take a look at this map, you see some western town buildings, as Imagineers had bigger plans for this area, with more water ride and an additional raft ride or two-man boat ride. Another proposed experience was done by none other than Mark Davis, that being the Adventure House. During 1975 and 1976, there was an initiative for more attractions, so Mark Davis would develop a fun house like no other. Mark developed several immersive experiences. Now, if you look at this concept art, you might start to see some cuties. That is because the narrative of this experience was that the ghost of the hoteliers, Maud and Jasper, kept care of pet chickens, including the mad one named Tiger. Mark Davis also made plans for an Oz attraction and Yesterworld in collaboration with Ray Bradbury. This was to replace the Carousel of Progress at Walt Disney World. This would have been a 3-act show presented by Monsanto. It would be similar to the Carousel but with a Mesopotamian family this time. It would showcase human achievement through time. The show would later receive some other iterations, but ultimately it never happened. Davis also did a Silly Symphonies attraction and a proposed ride for the American Pavilion at Epcot. This would have been an omni-mover probably, but it did feature some weird things. Now, going back to Fort Wilderness Junction. With the opening of Wilderness Lodge, plans were made to connect it to Fort Wilderness with a railroad. Other plans were made to add another hotel near Pioneer Hall and also replace River Country. This was known as Fort Wilderness Junction or Buffalo Junction. Unfortunately, it never happened. Downtown Disney was supposed to get a modest renovation with Hyperion Wharf. This would have replaced Pleasure Island. Demolition even started, but due to the 2008 recession, the project was let go, but a good idea never dies, and this would evolve into Disney Springs, your place to be, with many concepts going through while others being let go. Epcot also featured many cancelled pavilions, but these deserve a video of their own. In the 1990s, Disney was planning an expansion to its Disneyland resort. One of these proposals was for Port Disney in Long Beach, located next to the Queen Mary. Plans for this project date back to 1990, with this preliminary report that was sold on eBay. Unfortunately, this project was too ambitious and not located close enough to Disneyland itself, so plans were made for a new park at the Disneyland resort, that being Westcot. That didn't happen as well. But finally, Disney's California adventure opened and Disneyland got a new park. Disneyland Paris offers many hotels. I even did a video on that, but many architects proposed other designs during the competition, so let's go over a few of them. We have this design by Christian de Puzapac, a Rio de Janeiro inspired hotel. This project for a 1,000 room hotel in Marne-la-Vallée was to have been part of a large complex surrounding the water. This metaphorical homage to the city of Rio de Janeiro manifests fundamental poetic tension between geology and building. This hotel would have been a post-modern dream, a very cool interpretation of the Brazilian city. It is amusing seeing a combination of nature and the urban jungle, with the main building representing a hill that surrounds Rio. However, since this was a competition, the hotel that got made was ultimately Newport Bay Club. At least Christian actually got to design the Cidade das Artes in Rio de Janeiro. Other architects like Jean Nouvel came up with some really interesting ideas, like this glass palace. Hans Hollein designed one that looks like an aircraft carrier apparently. One of the designs would also have been by Bernardo Tichumi that looks like a Greek city. But I have this book with many cancelled Disneyland Paris projects. And an early concept. This was by Aldo Rossi, and I have another Disney book that, according to it,
he ran into difficulties getting along with Disney officials, pushed in a way he found unaccountable. In a letter to Eisner, he enrolled the trials of Gian Lorenzo Bernini, who found himself at old with Louis XIV.
Later on, he would reconcile with Disney and design this building in celebration. Another famous cancelled Disneyland Paris hotel was by none other than Robert Venturi, the Las Vegas Hotel. Now, if you are not familiar with the whole architectural postmodernist movement, you might think,
Las Vegas? That's not a good idea. I mean, it's Disney, and Las Vegas is gambling, you know.
However, for Robert Venturi, Las Vegas was a really inspirational city. One of Venturi's most famous work was Learning from Las Vegas, which many consider to be the beginning of the postmodernist movement. However, his Las Vegas hotel would never be built, and the site still sits unoccupied to this day, if you don't count the events arena. Disneyland Paris also had many cancelled attractions. Main Street News did a video on that subject. There was also the Disney MGM Studios Europe. You see, Euro Disney was planned to have a second park by 1996. This would be an European version of the MGM Studios in Florida. You can see it is much different than what we got, but there are some similarities. For instance, the Hollywood Boulevard was covered under a studio's facade, much similar to Studio One. After the opening of Euro Disney, this project was pushed back to 2002, and with many issues with MGM themselves, the project became Walt Disney Studios Park. Other cancelled Disneyland Paris rides would include this Frank Gehry inspired facade for the Philhar Magic. This ride would come to Disneyland Paris, but at Discoveryland, not Fantasyland, and no Frank Gehry, unfortunately. Another cancelled Disney hotel would have been the Venetian. On the early concepts for Walt Disney World Resort, there were plans for an Asian, a Persian, and a Venetian hotel. the Venetian would feature a main building lobby surrounded by canals and other lodges like the Polynesia. Unfortunately, the oil crisis came in the way of these hotels and they were pushed back. Unfortunately, with the Iranian Revolution, the Persian resort would be cancelled. However, the site of the Asian would become the Grand Floridian, designed by WATG, so plans were made to make a hotel on the site of the Venetian that was still unbuilt. First, architect Antoine Pridoc, that you might recognize from Hotel Santa Fe, would design the Mediterranean resort. It contains a lot of Greek elements this time. Unfortunately, this one never happened. Later, WATG would come back to design their version of the Venetian hotel. Many of the hotel's amenities would be similar to the Grand Floridian, but feature more northern Italian architecture. Unfortunately, since the hotel was very similar to the Grand Floridian, it didn't make sense for Disney to build it at that time. But 30 years later, I think it is a good idea to try this again. Now, if you want to see the best hotels at Disneyland Paris, click the video on the screen right now.